Rajendra Hina hina jana hila Hari name udhari Harasha ki jagay mata Sarota Toma bine Hari 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 Yadava Krishna, Yadukura Krishna, Madhava Yadava Krishna, Yadukura Krishna, Sadhujana, 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 Madhava Madhava Krishna, Ambujalo Jano, Ambujalo Jano, Ambujalo Jano, Kambashubha Deva, Ambujalo Jano, Dimbadhara Chandra Bimbadhara Chandra Bimbadhara Chandra Krishna Krishna Champayana Sagra Champayana Ratna Sharad Chandra Sharad Chandra Krishna Krishna Madhava
പറഞ്ഞു
Yadava Krishna Yadukula
अच्छा है इसके
Krishna
They use for the webbing.
Madhava Krishna Yadava Krishna Yadukula Krishna Yadava Krishna Yadukula Krishna Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigra Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karan Prakara Sadmasu Kalpa Viksha Lakshya Vitesh Ravi Ravi Paraya Tamaham Gajami Ram Ram Govinda
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Saraswati Mataji, Sunil Prabhu, Apara Mataji, Dandavatpranam, all the Shishla Prabhupada Gurudev. Actually,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandapram.
Krishna, I was waiting. Other devotees, but
Dandavat
Dandavatpranam Mataji, Saraswati Mataji, Hare Krishna. So, there are regular devotees, Mataji. I mean, Swapna Mataji, Pallavi Mataji, and then Sapan Prabhu, and Sirisha Mataji. What else? Who else? Yeah. Lakshmi Mataji. They regularly joins. Maybe I already sent a message, but maybe they are busy. Anyway, we are here. Let us start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is new book we are reading. Almost. Let me share a few statistics. We have done so far. So far, small books we have read up to close to 10 books, it seems. If you look at this, since last 1.5 year, it seems. These are the books we have done so far. Life comes from life. Perfect questions and perfect answers. Easy journey to other planets. Beyond birth and death. The path of perfection. Perfection of yoga. On the way to Krishna. Coming back. Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure. Krishna consciousness, the matchless gift. Elevation to Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness, the topmost yoga system. Raja Vidya, the king of knowledge. Civilization and transcendence. Few weeks back, we have done with this book, Light of the Bhagavata. It's an amazing journey with all of you. amazing. Srila Prabhupada's small books are perfect. So he is expanded, ecstasy. He expanded his ecstasy in his uh, small books, that I can say. It's last 1.5 year reading these books, getting so much info and different connections and different analogies and different ways of presenting Vedic knowledge in these books. See, ultimately, those two books only. Now, what is this? Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and other some Puranas, some Upanishads, some other stotras, Mukundramala Stotra, some Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita verses. So he quoted in connection with the particular topic. All these books having a different topics, and each topic we can present in 2 hours of class. And that is a beauty. What is Srila Prabhupada's beauty? In his purport, he connects different verses from different scriptures in order to understand particular topic and particular point. So that's why he's a Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So today I will read a wonderful book. This is basically talks about the modes of material nature and the infallible justice. What is the meaning of infallible? Infallible means it has to go through it, that's it. One has to suffer whatever the bad activities done because of the material nature is like that. Infallible justice, that means of making mistakes or being wrong. Infallible dictionary meaning is making mistakes or being wrong. So justice, these material laws created by Krishna himself. Mayadhyakshena prakrute suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagadvi parivartate. Mayadhyakshena prakriti. Nature, right? Prakriti means nature. And Adhyaksha, who is Adhyaksha? President. President is Krishna. Who has given these laws? From Krishna only. But of course, Durga Devi runs. Krishna appointed her as a job duties. You have to run these different modes, this different material nature. Durga Shakti. So Prabhupada writes so nice points based on this laws of material nature. We'll read today. The laws of nature and infallible justice. His divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Okay, introduction. We'll start with introduction. Okay. Saraswati Mataji, please read. Thank you for joining. Please continue to join and give us inspiration.
Introduction. Man prides himself on being a creature of reason above the lowly beast. Yet it seems that when he applies his reason to unlocking the secret of nature for his benefit, he sinks deeper and deeper into a quagmire of interactable problems. The internal combustion engine gets us where we are going faster, but also results in choking air pollution, the greenhouse effect, and a dangerous dependence on oil. Harnessing the atom gives us cheap energy, but also leads to weapons of mass destruction, Chernobyl, and a rising tide of dangerous radioactive waste. Modern agribusiness produces a dizzying variety and abundance of food at the supermarket, but also result in the death of the family farm, the pollution of groundwater, the loss of precious topsoil, and many other problems. It's clear we are missing something in our attempts to harness the laws of nature for our own purposes. What is that something? We find out in the very first mantra of the Ishopanishad, the foremost of Asian India's book of wisdom known as the Upanishad. Everything in this creation is owned and controlled by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. In nature, we see this principle at work. Nature arrangement set up by the Lord maintains the birds and beasts. The elephant eats his 50 kilos per day. The ant his few grains. If man doesn't interfere, the natural balance sustains all creatures. Any agriculturalist will tell you the earth can produce enough food to feed 10 times the present human population. Yet, political intrigues and wars, unfair distribution of land, the production of cash crops like tobacco, tea, and coffee instead of food, and erosion due to misuse ensure that millions go hungry, even in wealthy countries like United States. We must understand the laws of nature from the viewpoint of Supreme Lord, who has created these laws. In his eyes, all the earth's inhabitants, whether creatures of the land, water, or air, are his sons and daughters. Yet, we, the human inhabitants, the most advanced of his creatures, treat these sons and daughters with great cruelty from the practice of animal slaughter to destruction of the rainforest. Is it any wonder that we suffer an unending series of natural disaster, wars, epidemics, famines, and the like? The source of a problem is the desire for sense gratification beyond the consideration of anyone else's rights. These rights are the rights of the child in relation to the father. Every child has the right to share the wealth of his father. So, creating a brotherhood of all creature on earth depends on understanding the universal fatherhood of God. Prabhuji, shall I continue or some other read, Prabhuji?
Mataji, it's up to you. If you want to read it, otherwise, Sunil Prabhu will read. It's up
Yeah,
to you.
Sunil, continue, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Mataji. Sunil Prabhuji,
Thank
please
you.
come. Very nicely written, no? See, problem is, how this material nature is exploiting. So this is the thing. The internal combustion engine gets us where we are going faster, but also results of choking air pollution. Air pollution is there, greenhouse effect there, dangerous dependence on oil, motor car. Now we all have different vehicles which runs on the petrol. In America, it's called gas. So it is a natural resource. Harnessing the atom gives up cheap energy, but also leads to weapons of mass destruction. There are different weapons of mass destruction. Internet is one such that. Internet is also such a bad thing. It's going on right now. Internet, because everything is available with just a click of the matter, just one click button. The weapons of mass destruction. Chernobyl and rising tide of dangerous radioactive waste. Actually, electronics, right? Electronics, everything we are running on smart watches, smart TV. But you know how much this radioactive the signals are generating by utilizing these devices. Somewhere the air is polluting, which we cannot see with our blunt senses, blunt eyes. But it's going on, completely polluting actually. So modern agri business produces dizzying variety of abundance of food at the supermarket, but also results in the death of the family farm, the pollution of groundwater, the loss of precious topsoil, and many other problems. We are seeing all these problems. This is the mood of a pure devotee. This is going on. So how do we save? At least understand how to use this earth, natural resources given by Supreme Lord. It is clear we are missing something in our attempts to harness the laws of nature for our own purpose. What is that? What is that something? We find out in the very first mantra of the Ishopanishad. Very wonderful verse. The foremost of the ancient India's books of wisdom, known as the Upanishads, Ishopanishads, we'll recite that verse. Everything in this creation is owned and controlled by the Lord. Who is the owner and who is the controller? Krishna, no? Right? Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti. That's there. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Let me share that verse, Ishopanishad verse.
Yes, Prabhuji, it is there in
Ishavasya.
Upanishad.
Bhakti Shastri.
Ishavashyamidam sarvam
You read it.
yatkinchit
Mm.
tena tyaktena bunjita magruda kasya sukram.
Yes, yes. In our Bhakti Shastri sloka test we have done.
Yeah, it is.
Ishavashyam, yes, Madhuri. Ishavashyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhujita magruda kasya sviddhanam. What is saying? So that is what it is. Everything animate or inanimate. That means moving, non-moving. That is within this universe, controlled and owned by the Supreme Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, not greedy. We just that's why by this Prabhupada comes up a point like simple living and high thinking, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Whom they belong? It belongs to Krishna. We have to accept whatever necessary. Prabhupada writes in his purports, we need a minimum bare necessities to keep the body and soul together. To keep the body and soul together. That he writes in his purpose in this. Because the more we accumulate, problem is the more we suffer. Simple to understand, The more we accumulate, the more we suffer. That is the thing. That is the natural law. That's why simple living and high thinking is the addressing that problem. Accumulation mode, if you are in an accumulation mode, how much you can accumulate? The more you accumulate, your thinking will go on, your energies will go on, to maintain, person having a 10 bungalows, person having a 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles, person having so much bank balance, so much stocks, stock market, different things, gold, etc., etc., etc. All the material things, if a person keep on accumulating and to maintain, to save, the energy has to be spent on that. Where did I put, how to increase that, how to save that? This is the thing. That's why when we have simple, common, and very natural, simplistic way of life, we are saving our energy to serve Krishna. That is the thing. We are saving our energy to serve Krishna. So this is one of the important verse, Ishopanishad. The mantra 1. Ishavasya idam sarvam. Ishavasya idam sarvam jagat. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Tena taktvena bhujita magruda kasya siddhanam. These are the teachings actually. Vedas is a daily life teachings. Right? So Prabhupada writes, in nature we see this principle at work. And give an example also. By nature's arrangement set up by the Lord, maintains birds, beasts, elephant eats is 50 kilos per day. The ant is fruit grains. If man doesn't interfere, the natural balance sustains all creatures. Problem is man is interfering. If man doesn't interfere, the natural balance sustains all creatures. Actually, we don't need to work too much, The nature has given such a way that we don't need to be too much stressful, because nature is given by whom? Krishna. We just have to utilize for his service. Nature is going to give everything: food, grains, vegetables, minerals, whatever necessities for a human body requires, it gives. You don't need to work for too much, 9 to 12 hours, 13 hours, 15 hours, 16 hours. For what? Simple living we have to adopt. Of course, we have to work 6 hours, 8 hours. That's okay. But remaining hours, we have to use it for Krishna service. We have to live simple life. Any agriculturist will tell you the earth can produce enough food to feed 10 times the present human population. Any agriculture. See the grains, how we see. So much, one seed can give innumerable grains. A simple one grain, see that, no? Rice grain, no? If we serve rice grain, for example, how much it will give? It will give a number of grains come out of after grown up. That is the beauty of nature. Yet political intrigues, and this is the problem. Yet political intrigues and wars, unfair distribution of land, the production of cash crops like tobacco, cash crops, and double money making crops, tobacco, tea, coffee. This is the most of the things, right? Getting so much money on this. Tobacco, tea, coffee. These are the crops getting so much money instead of food because of the man's greediness, human beings' greediness to exploit, but is another thing. Instead of food and heroism due to misuse, problem is misusing. Misuse ensure that millions go hungry, even in wealthy countries like United States. That is the thing. So we'll see from here. Prabhu, Sunil Prabhu, can you read? Sorry, Sirisha Mata, thank you for joining.
Dandavatam, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavatam. You can read from here, Prabhuji. Then
Yeah.
later, Sirisha Mata, okay, thank you.
Yeah. We must understand the laws of nature from the viewpoint of the Supreme Lord, who has created these laws. In his eyes, all the earth's inhabitants, whether creatures of the land, water, or air, are his sons and daughters. Yet we, the human inhabitants, the most advanced of his creatures, treat their sons and daughters with great cruelty, from the practice of animal slaughter to destructions of the rainforests. Is it any wonder that we suffer an unending series of natural disasters, wars, epidemics, famines, and the like? The source of our problem is the desire for sense gratification beyond the consideration of anyone else's rights. These rights are the rights of the child in relation to the father. Every child has the right to share the wealth of his father, so creating a brotherhood of all creatures on earth depends on understanding the universal fatherhood of God. As we have seen, the Vedic literature declares that the Supreme Lord owns and controls the entire creation. Not a blade of grass moves without his sanction. He is the complete whole. Then what is our position? Just as a king is no king without subjects, God is no God without his servants. He is the supreme enjoyer, and we are meant to take part in his enjoyment through service to him, not by trying to enjoy separately. He is omnipotent and thus completely independent. Our minute independence is a tiny reflection of his total independence. It is our misuse of that minute independence and our attempt to enjoy separate from him that have resulted in our current predicament. Why do we misuse our independence? Because we are ignorant of our real nature. The first lesson of the Vedic wisdom is that we are not bodies but rather spirit souls, minute particles of consciousness dwelling within the body and animating it. Just as the car is a machine that allows a driver to travel from point A to B, the body is a machine that allows the spirit soul to act and to experience sensations and thoughts within the Lord's material nature. When we understand our true identity as spiritual beings, part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit God, we understand that we are meant to serve Him just as the hand or foot serves the whole body. Shall I continue now?
Yeah, this is only two paragraphs, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
One
Yes, you can
second.
go a little.
Yes, it's two, three. You can do one more paragraph, then give it to Sirisha Mata. You can do.
Okay.
Read, Prabhu.
Our problem, however, is that we forget our identity separate from the body and instead misidentify ourselves with it. If a person happens to be born in America, he considers himself as American. If he is born in France, he considers himself as Frenchman. So we also identify ourselves according to our sex, race, creed, and social status, etc. But all these qualities apply only to the body, not to the soul. Therefore, embracing them as our true identity causes us to forget the Lord and our relationship with Him and to see ourselves as independent enjoyers of His material nature.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Sirisha Mata. Hare Krishna Mataji. Yeah,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
yeah. Are you able to read Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah,
The
please go
Vedic
ahead.
literature, the Vedic literature explained that human activity, when devoid of service to the Lord, is governed by a subtle law known as the law of karma. This is the familiar law of action and reaction as it pertains to what we do in this world and the enjoyment or suffering we experience as a result. If I cast pain to another living being, then as surely as the wheel of life turns, I will be forced to suffer similar pain. And if I bring happiness to another, a like pressure awaits me. At every second, with every breath, our activities in this material world cause enjoyment and suffering. The facilitate these endless actions and reactions. There has to be more than just one life. There has to be in reincarnation. Until recently, the idea of reincarnation, while universally accepted in India and other Eastern countries, had found few adherents in the West. The church banned the philosophy of reincarnation centuries ago. This is long story dating as far back as the history of the early Christian church between 300 AD and 600 AD. Recounting this controversy is not within the scope of this book, but the denial of this important concept has left a void in the worldview of the Western peoples. Can I continue, Prabhu?
Continue one more paragraph.
Yes, Prabhu. However, in the last decade, or so many thinkers in the West have. Hey, Anshu, go out. West began to take the idea of reincarnation seriously. For example, Dr. Michael Sabam of Emory University Medical School has written a book entitled Recollections of Death, a medical investigation 1982, which detail his studies confirming the out-of-body experiences reporting by cardiac arrest patients. Sobam writes, could the mind which splits apart from the physical brain be, in essence, the soul which continues to exist after the final bodily death, according to some religious
Doctrines.
doctrines.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, I think Lakshmi Mataji, you join now. You want to read? Can you please read? Hare Krishna Mataji. Lakshmi Mataji.
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Dandavat pranam.
Krishna. Are you able to read Mataji?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji.
So please read it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia, in his book 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation, 1966, has documented and verified past life memories in young children. Other studies using such methods as hypnotic regression indicate that the idea of reincarnation may soon gain acceptance among mainstream scientists in the West. The Vedic literature makes reincarnation of the soul a central feature in its explanation of human destiny. And the logic is obvious when we consider a simple question like the following. Why is one child born to wealthy parents in the United States while another is born to starving peasants in Ethiopia? Only the doctrine of karma and reincarnation, reward and punishment carried over many lifetimes answers this question easily. The laws of nature and infallible justice has been compiled primarily from
two sources. The first is a series of talks given on the Shri Ishopanishad by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The author, the author, page 84, delivered in Los Angeles in the spring of 1970. These talks provide an illuminating account of how the universe really operates. The second source is Srila Prabhupada's commentated translation on the Srimad Bhagavatam. From the third canto of this monumental work, we here reproduce chapter 30, titled Description by Lord Kapila of Adverse Fruitive Activities. In this section, we learn the fate of this sinful soul who transgresses the laws of God's nature and incurs punishment according to the laws of karma. If in one of his Ishopanishad talks, Srila Prabhupada says, if you do good work, you will have so-called enjoyment in your next life, but you will remain bound up in the cycle of birth and death. And if you do bad work, then you will have to suffer the sinful reactions and also remain bound up in birth and death. But if you work for Krishna, there is no such reactions, good or bad. And at the time of their death, you will return to Krishna. This is the only way to break the bonds of karma, and this is the only way for society as a whole to mitigate the sufferings mentioned earlier. While we are in this world, there is no getting rid of suffering altogether. For as the Vedic teachings recognize, this material world is by nature a place of suffering. Ultimately, we are powerless in the mid of vast array of natural forces. The hope, therefore, is to know and follow the will of the Supreme Lord, the Master of nature. Only in this way can we transcend the laws of nature and end the cycle of reincarnation and attain the perfection of life, love of God, and a place in His kingdom.
Haribol, thank you so much, Mataji. We have done
Hare
just
Krishna.
introduction, part of this.
Thank Yeah.
Many things covered here, actually. After here, we have gone through here. We must understand the laws of nature from the viewpoint of Supreme Lord. So these laws given by Supreme Lord, and we have to view from the point of Krishna, who has created the laws. In his eyes, all the earth's inhabitants, whether creatures of the land, water, air, etc., all are his sons and daughters. Aham bija pradapita. He only says that. Krishna only says in the Bhagavad Gita. Aham bija pradapita. I am the seed-giving father of everything. Yet we, human inhabitants, the most advanced. Why human beings are most advanced? Because we have developed intelligence. Because developed intelligence, we are seeing all these, big buildings, nice roads, different vehicles, rockets, flights, ships. We see many things, technological advancement, because human brain is, compared to other animals, is the topmost, because developed intelligence. Krishna has given because after evolution after transmigrating from one body to another body, from insects to birds to beasts to different four-legged animals to now ultimately come to the point of human beings. That means our intelligence is developed intelligence. Discrimination is given for us. Animals doesn't have discrimination. That's why they don't suffer karma. Only human beings undergo with karma, because we have a discrimination power. If we are not using the discrimination power, intelligence, and if we are committing various bad activities, sinful activities, we have to suffer. So that is the thing. So after elevation from one body to another body, we got this one body. So the human brain, we are seeing different. That's why it's called, human brain most advanced of his creatures. Treat these sons and daughters with great cruelty. Killing, right? Killing animals, especially cow. Cow slaughters are the most abominable activity. Too much ugra karma is creating. Too much karma is creating when a person kills cow. Cow is called sadhu jantu. Sadhu jantu is a very wonderful animal. It gives nice milk, which human beings have been taking, right? And it gives nice With the milk, so many preparations. Prabhupada writes actually in his, see, that's a pure devotee's consciousness. He writes, his heart melts when he writes about the cows. No, what is given? Panchagavya method is there, right? Cow. With the cow, there are 5 medicinal benefits there. It's called Panchagavya therapy. We all know, right? What gives? What cow gives? Cow milk, uh, Gomutra, and Gobar, 1, 2, 3. And ghee is there, butter is there, the milk, yogurt is there. Source is from milk, right? Milk only, right? So that is the thing. That's why cruelty, with great cruelty, these human beings are, doing this. From the practical animal starter to destruction of the rainforests. Is it any wonder that we suffer an unseeing series of natural history? Is it wonder? Prabhupada writes. Prabhupada, is it any wonder that we suffer an unending series of natural disasters? Because of why we are seeing different disasters, wars, epidemics. Epidemics. We have gone through one epidemic, no? Coronavirus. Some ugra karma, bad karma, famines and etc. See, another, the source of our problem is very important statement by, the source of our problem is the desire for sense gratification beyond the consideration of anyone else's rights. These rights are the rights of the child in relation to the father. Every child has the right to share the wealth of his father. Actually, everybody on this earthly planet is equal amount of share of God's natural resources. But man, too much greedy, exploiting. As we have seen in the Vedic literature declares that Supreme Lord owns controls. We have seen that, right? Ishava Shangam Sarvam, he is the owner, he is the controller. Not a blade of grass moves without his sanction. That is true. Every movement, a little particle movement under his direction. He knows everything. Because he is creator, he knows everything actually. Just as a king is no king without subject, God is no God without his servants. He is the supreme enjoyer. And when we are meant to take his part in his enjoyment through the service to him, in order to get rid of all the problems, we have to do this one. We have to establish our relationship with Krishna. How can we establish relationship with Krishna? We have got the Hare Krishna mantra. With the mantra, we get the relationship with Krishna. Once we establish our relationship with Krishna, we get the wonderful consciousness to utilize everything in Krishna's service. First to start with Shravanam Kirtanam, to chant and holy names, to hear holy names. He is omnipotent, thus completely independent, right? He is independent. He is not dependent on anything. He is a completely independent, and he is omnipotent. There are omni words, right? 3 omni words: omnipotent, omniscience, and omnipresent, like that. Omnipotent, omniscient, and one more thing, omnipresent, I think. Okay. Our minute independence is a tiny reflection of his total independence. Actually, every word, actually, we have to repeatedly read and understand. That much knowledge is there here. Right? We are minutely independent. We are all, our minute independence is a tiny reflection of his total independence. How can we understand? We are always completely dependent on Krishna only. We are not independent. Never. We are tiny reflection of his total independence. It is our misuse. This is the thing. It is our misuse of that minute independence and attempt to enjoy separate from him that have resulted in our current predicament. Why we come to this middle world? We wanted to enjoy not with Krishna. We wanted to enjoy separate from Krishna, separately from Krishna. So that's why we are suffering. So in order to get rid of these problems, we have to again join with him. We have to again join with Krishna. Otherwise, there is no chance. We have to unite with him. We have to reciprocate with him. We have to do service to him. Then we are with Krishna. Problem is misuse of minute independence and separately enjoying from Krishna. So why do we use? That's a question. Why do we misuse our independence? Because we are ignorant of our real nature. A first lesson of the Vedic real nature. What is our real nature? First lesson of the Vedic wisdom is Atato Brahma Jignasa, is that we are not bodies, but rather spirit souls. Aham Brahmasmi. That's called Aham Brahmas. Two things always we have to remember. Aham Brahmasmi, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Aham Brahmasmi. I am the spirit soul. I am not this body. We have to understand that. I am spirit soul and which is eternal, which connects to Sri Krishna. The body is temporary, and this body is using this body, this and everything is using understanding about the soul's nature and super soul's expectation. Right? Atato Brahma Jigyasa and Aham Brahmasmi. Atato Brahma Jigyasa means human form of life is to meant for self-realization only, no other purpose. To self-realization only. And once we get the self-realization, once we understand our real nature, I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul, then that's a good thing. Car is example given by Srila Prabhupada, just as a car is a machine that allows driver to travel from point A to point B, the body is a machine that allows the spirit soul to act, to experience sensations and thoughts within the Lord's material nature. When you understand our true identity as spiritual beings, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, we understand that we are meant to serve Him just as a hand or foot serves the whole body, like that. Spirit soul, unless spirit soul is not there in the body, there is no value to this body. As long as spirit soul is there, body has a value. Oh, this is a person. Oh, she is a lady. Like that, we understand. If the body, if so, spirit soul left the body, what happens? Body doesn't move. It's lying down. As long as soul is there, body is living. It's different names. It's Jiva, Prana, Atma, different names, right? So, who has given it again? The Jiva, Prana, Atma given by Krishna only to this body. So, you have to use it for Krishna service. Our problem, however, is that we forget our identity separate from the body, and instead of misidentify ourselves with it. If a person happens to be born in America, he considers himself an American, Frenchman. Also, identify ourselves according to our sex, race, creed, social status. Right? I'm man, I'm woman, I'm race, like in America, different races are there. Mexican, Asian Americans, Asians, Mexicans, Europeans, different race, creed, so their social status. But all these qualities apply only to the body, not the soul. Soul doesn't have any color. Soul doesn't have any sex. Soul doesn't have any social status. Soul, they're all bodily relation, bodily designations. A wonderful verse, let me recite from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sarvopadivi nirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. Designations to the body. Sarvopadi means designations. Upadi means designations. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam. If we get rid of those designations, tatparatvena nirmalam, with the full consciousness of Krishna, rishikena rishikesha sevanam. If we engage ourselves in the service of Krishna, that is a beauty. It is a beautiful thing actually. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Richate. And therefore, embracing them as our true entity causes us to forget the Lord, our relationship with Him, and to see ourselves as independent enjoyers. We are independently enjoying, separate from Krishna. That is a problem of His material nature. Again, enjoyment also enjoying in His resources. We never ever become independent, Prabhupada. We never ever become independent. We are always dependent. Either is material nature. See, these are the resources given by Krishna only. Material nature is given. Different bodies to enjoy our sense gratification. Right? So ultimately He has given. We are not separate. We are always independent. But separately enjoying due to bodily consciousness. 2-3 paragraphs there, and we can wrap up. Maybe from Friday, we will read from chapter 1. It's wonderful things. I mean, nicely described here. That's where I'm taking time here. The Vedic literature explains that human activity, when divided of service to the Lord, it is governed by a subtle law known as the law of karma. Law of karma. Prabhupada writes this specific word. Stringent laws never leaves anybody. If you do bad activity, you have to suffer at any cost. We have to suffer at any cost. Stringent material laws, right? Under the purview of Krishna, we have to suffer. So don't need to worry. But how do we get rid of these different activities? Prabhupada only writes here. You can see that the Vedic literature explains that human activity, when devoid of service to the Lord, is governed by a subtle law known as the law of karma. This is the familiar law of action and reaction. What is the law? What is the karma? Karma means action and reaction. If you do good action, you get good reactions. If you do bad action, you get bad reactions. Equal amount, same. Same I have to suffer. Pertains to what we do in this mental world and the enjoyment or suffering we experience as a result. If I cause pain to another living being, then I surely as the wheel of time turns, right? If we eat animals, for example, next life we become animals. Somebody eat every day sheep, goat, fish, etc., etc. Next life, loss never leaves them. They become like that. And opposite, the right now, it is the same. That's why the picture is, laws of material nature, equal amount of reaction is there. At every second, this is one. If I cause pain to another living being, then as surely as the wheel of time turns, I will be forced to suffer similar pain. And if I bring happiness to another, I like pleasure awaits me. Same. Action and reaction, same. Good action, bad reaction. Good action, good reaction. Bad action, bad reaction. At every second, with every breath, our activities in this material world cause enjoyment and suffering. See, every second it is causes for our enjoyment and causes for suffering. To facilitate these endless actions and reactions, there has to be more than just one life. There has to be reincarnation. That's why reincarnation means one body to another body, right? One body to another body according to desires. Dehinosmita dehe kaumaram yubbanam jara tata dehantaram prapti dhirasatram. There are many beautiful verses which talks about reincarnation. The next birth is there. One more verse. Dehinosmita, there is one more. Transmigration. Yes. I forgot that verse. Until recently, the idea of reincarnation, while universally, so Prabhupada writes about these publishers, devotees of Prabhupada writes this. What they are saying, until recently, the idea of reincarnation, while universally accepted in India, other Eastern countries had found adherents in the West. The church banned the philosophy of reincarnation centuries ago. This is a long story, dating as far as back in the history. The early Christian church between 300 AD to 600 AD. Recounting this controversy is not within the scope of this book, but the denial of this important concept has left a void in the worldview of Western peoples. That means they won't accept the reincarnation. They feel that only one life is there. Reincarnation means next life, no? What is the meaning of reincarnation? Taking next birth, right? That they didn't accept it during 300 AD and 600 AD, those centuries. But however, in the last decade, so many thinkers in the West have begun to take the idea of reincarnation seriously. There are scientists researched actually. 1982, a medical investigation by this guy, Dr. Michael Sabom of Emory University Medical School, written a book and studied, could the mind which splits apart from the physical brain be in essence the soul which continues to exist? Continues to exist means next life is there after final bodily death, according to some religious doctrines. One scientist found that, there is a possibility. There is always there next life, like that. And one more scientist, Ian Stevenson, also a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia, in his book, 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation. 1966, he published the book. Has documented and verified past life memories in young children. Other studies using such methods of hypnocritic regression indicate that the idea of reincarnation may soon gain acceptance. That is there. Reincarnation already there. Even though when scientists believed or not during the 300 to 600 centuries, but the concept is always there. Because in the Vedic literature it is already described. That is perfect. Vedic knowledge is the only perfect knowledge, right? Right. The Vedic literature makes reincarnation of the soul a central feature in its explanation of human destiny. Logic is obvious when we consider a simple question like following. Why one child born to wealthy parents to the United States, while another is born to starving peasants in Ethiopia? Only the doctrine of karma and reincarnation. Because of the karma, they take higher birth or lower birth. They take higher birth or lower birth because of their activities. Reward and punishment. See, reward and punishment carried over many lifetimes. Reward and punishment. If you do bad activity, we have to experience punishment. Answer this question easily. The laws of nature. So this is beauty. Laws of nature. This book talks about, compiled by two primary resources. What is from Sri Prabhupada talks only on the Ishopanishad and Srimad Bhagavatam. This particular chapter, third canto of this monumental work, chapter 30, third canto 3.30 from Bhagavatam, chapter 30, description by Lord Kapila of adverse fruitive activities. That whoever laws breaking, so Kapila, Lord Kapila is teaching. Is Kapila none other Krishna only. Krishna teaching about the adverse fruitive activities. In this section, we learn false of fate of the sinful soul who transmigrate. What he's saying in this section, we learn the fate of sinful soul who transgress the laws of God's nature and incurs punishment according to the law of karma. Lord Kapila explaining the Bhagavatam, but in this book, Srila Prabhupada and his publishers, Prabhupada disciples, written in a way to understand easily. If one of his Ishavani talks, Srila Prabhupada says, if you do good work, you will have so-called enjoyment in your next life, but you will remain bound up in the cycle of birth and death. And if you do bad work, then you will have to suffer the sinful reactions and also remain bound up in birth and death. But if you work for Krishna, the highest statement, I liked it. No? If you work for Krishna, there are no such reactions, good or bad. At the end, at the time of death, you will return to Krishna. This is the only way to break the bonds of karma. If you do good, you get good reactions. You may take birth, good family or good aristocratic family or knowledgeable family. Shruti Srimata Gehe. Krishna says that directly. Shruti Shushi Srimata Gehe. Two families you may take birth. Wealthy person's family or knowledgeable person's family. So that is bhakti continues. So this is the thing. If you work for Krishna, there is no question of good and bad. Akarma. See, this is the thing, right? Sakarma, vikarma, akarma. Sakarma means good activities, good results. Vikarma, bad activities, bad results. Akarma, no results. Always pleasing Krishna. Krishna conscious activities, no binding. All those two binding. Karma, vikarma, sakama karma, vikarma, binding. That's the thing. And this is the only way for society as a whole to mitigate the sufferings mentioned earlier. While we are in this world, there is no getting rid of suffering altogether. For as the Vedic teachings recognize, this material world is by nature a place of suffering. Krishna himself just says it. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Simple. This material world is by nature a place of suffering. By nature is a place of suffering. What is the particular statement by Krishna's lotus mouth? Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Always suffering in this material world. Sometimes it appears like happiness, but actually no happiness, temporary happiness. And again suffering. Mostly suffering only. Yeah, ultimately we are powerless amidst powerless in the midst of vast array of natural forces. The hope, therefore, is to know and follow will of the Supreme Lord, the Master of Nature. Only in this way can we transcend the laws of nature and the cycle of reincarnation and attain the perfection of life, love of God, and a place in His kingdom. So how can we do that? We have to place our consciousness in Krishna. Always in terms of all of our activities, all of our thinking, feeling, and willing activities, all of feelings, thinking, feeling, and willing, mainly, right? Thinking, feeling, and willing. And then what is that? All of our words, actions, manasa, vacha, karma, right? Manasa, mind, vacha, that means words, manasa, vacha, karma, activities, doing activity, calm. And in all the places, in all the times, in all the Desha Kala Patra. We say, right? Desha, the place, Kala, time, Desha Kala Patra, time, place, and circumstances. If we think about Krishna, keeping Krishna in the center, all of our activities will be purified. There is no question of karma. Okay, so with this, we'll wrap up. We are on time only. 8:16, right? I wanted to close 8:16. Yeah, another 2 minutes. It's okay. So anybody have any questions, or otherwise we can wrap up. Let us connect on Friday to continue from chapter 1. Chapter 1 talks about God and the law of karma. You so nicely describes in this book. Very important book. Actually, we have to repeatedly read this book to have nice consciousness and to do good activities every day. Okay. Does anybody have any questions, or
Yeah,
otherwise?
Prabhuji, I have one question, small question.
Yeah, go.
You said that karma is not applicable for animals. Is that
Yes, yes.
what I heard it rightly? Okay.
Yes.
But then they also, if you look at some animals might suffer, or some animals might actually enjoy whatever life they are living as well. Right? For example, a dog might stay, a street dog might suffer, or might not get the food on time or properly, but the other one get that
Acha.
lavishly, right? So there is this difference as well.
See, as per Prabhupada's statements, Prabhuji, we understand that, karma applicable for human beings only. There is no question of karma to the lower species, because already whatever karma they wanted to suffer, that's where they got the body and continuing their life. In human bodies, if you come to, again, we got the human body, we do good things, bad things, based on that, we have to suffer. So if you are coming to your question, like, animals also, it appears like suffering, Prabhu. It appears like suffering. It also, but it does, the body given by, based on the karma, of course, karma, that animal body. So in that body, it has to suffer, but it doesn't create any new activity. It doesn't create any new activity because body is given. For example, cat body, a rat body.
Okay, so no new karma is getting
no new karma
generated. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yes, no new karma generated. Because whatever karma, this is that is their consciousness. They were for example, tiger consciousness. Always, every day their food is meat, killing and taking food. Because that consciousness is like that. So he got that body. Suffering, in that body only suffering. I mean, there is no question of recreating another karma. And after the death of the animal, I mean, it has to elevate anyway. After karma dissolves, body dies, then with the nature's will, Krishna's will, whatever body needed to be done, taken care by material nature. So no new karma. But we, as human beings, Prabhuji, as human beings, we are creating karma every day, every second. Prabhupada writes every second. That's where always in Krishna consciousness, utilizing all of our energies in Krishna consciousness. Then there is no question of karma. That's why we always talk about akarma, right, Prabhu? Sakama karma, vikarma, akarma. So akarma is KC activities, Krishna conscious activities. Yeah.
Right, Prabhu.
Yes. Shirishama started call, I will also join there. Yes, that's where I'll close. Thank you very much. Anybody have anything? Let's wrap up. We'll wrap up. Saraswati Mataji, thank you so much. Sunil Prabhu, thank you so much. Shirishama, thank you so much. Apara Mataji, thank you so much. And one more Mataji joined, and she read sometime and maybe busy with kids. Lakshmi Mataji also. And thank you so much again. We'll connect on Friday. Please join. Let us read this wonderful book actually. We have to get some seriousness. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Mevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Gaur Hari Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. There is a call, Jagannath Ratha Yatra, how we celebrated since last 55 hours, that 11 Ratha Yatra. Leela Prabhu started a call. I am also joining, okay?